Yeah, Scary Terry, 8 receiving touchdowns since week 12, including one last week, most in the NFL during that time. All right, meanwhile, good news for the Lions offense this week. They get David Montgomery back, who missed the last 3 games of the regular season with that knee injury. Jared Goff has been a much better passer with Montgomery on the field compared to Jahmyr Gibbs due to running almost double the amount of play action. With Montgomery on the field, Goff has a higher QBR, throws for more yards per attempt, and has a better touchdown to interception ratio. So, RC, when we're talking about how they should use these running backs, what do you expect?
Well, I think the first thing is establish the run. When you think about the games where the Detroit Lions were completely dominant offensively, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery got going early. Now, we don't know if Knuckles is going to have the sort of burst that he had throughout the season, but we know that he will play with physicality. And even though you could see here the way that the bunch was used against the Washington Commanders in the first game, you're going to get a ton of that when you think about what the Detroit Lions love to do. And now you have some of these players like a Jahmyr Gibbs, who if he gets into that sort of space, he could take the 10-yard run and turn it into a 20-yard run or a touchdown. I think you start with this run game, and from this run game, you move into condensed split passing game where we can get Kyren Williams taken off the top of the defense or Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta working inside the numbers.
First of all, I love the matchup stuff. I mean, that's such a good focus point for everybody, and I totally agree in this game. So those 3 keys for Detroit's offense, this offense can kind of do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, but the stuff that RC was starting to get into, some of those bunches, Washington struggled with it whether they were in zone or man, and as long as you make sure that you're crisp in your routes, it is advantage Detroit, something that they do. The second thing is these perimeter runs where you get this ball almost on the numbers. And the struggle is, I don't think they're physical enough on the outside, Washington, to handle that. And when you got really good D tackles, like a Newton, like an Allen, like a Payne, you want to trap those guys, meaning you allow them to get upfield a step or two because they're penetrators. And then you bring someone from the outside or the opposite side and inside out them, and they think they have a good play. Detroit's going to have a lot of things for Washington to try to have to figure out and handle, unless Washington plays one of its best, if not the best defensive game they've had all season. It's hard to see this offense in Detroit not scoring 30-plus points in this game at home.
And thus, who do we have moving on to the NFC Championship game? Everyone here is sticking with the Lions. Remember last week, Mina, when Dan told us he was going to pick every game 20-17? Well, he did it again.
I don't think he actually believes that in this case.
No, he doesn't.
No,
he absolutely
no.
doesn't.
I think it's 30, like 34-23.
Dan, don't change now. Don't change now, Dan. Just let it be. Be who you are, bro.
He's just playing the percentages. He's playing. It's the end of the season. This is what you get from Dan. Check this out. Rams defensive end Jared Verse, a Pennsylvania native, said this about Eagles fans this week, and I quote, "I hate Eagles fans. They're so annoying. I hate Eagles fans. When I see green and white, I hate it. Like, I actually get upset. Like, I actually genuinely get hot." Saquon Barkley responded to that and said, probably not the smartest thing to say when you're coming to Philly. Eagles beat the Rams by 17 back in November. Here's Sean McVay on the rematch Sunday.
There's a ton of respect that I have for him, the consistency at which he's done it, the way that, his guys play. There's an identity, there's a philosophy, but I think there's a flexibility like I talked to you guys about earlier in the year in terms of, all right, there's some foundational principles, but what fits this group? They're obviously at the top of the charts in every single metric that really matters. They're as good as it gets defensively. We know what a great challenge it's going to be and how little margin for error you have if you expect to consistently move the ball and ultimately finish drives against as good a defense as there is in this league, arguably the best.
Yeah, listen, the defense did a 180 this season under new coordinator Vic Fangio. Back in 2023, Philly's defense ranked 3rd worst in points per game, red zone efficiency, and expected points added. This season, they ranked top 3 in points allowed, yards per play, expected points added. There's 17.8 points allowed this season, fewest since 2004, and you remember what happened that year. They went to the Super Bowl. So, Dan, what should the Rams' focus be offensively?
Well, when Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith are on the same side in pass rush situations, they're a problem. Last time these two teams played, they were 0 for 8, the Rams offensively on third down. And you can't single either of them up. Now, they'll get into those wide kind of what we call 4 eyes, super wide defensive tackles. And if you go away from them, you create 2 one-on-ones. The Rams aren't good enough to handle either of these guys in one-on-one on a consistent basis. And Nolan Smith's quickness beats you. Number two is when they get so wide, Nolan Smith super far, you go double Carter. Well, that leaves Nolan Smith one-on-one. And so that's the challenge if you're the Rams is when they get super spread out as a defensive line, how do they handle it from a one-on-one or 2-on-2 situation? Because you can't feel good with either of your guards or tackles. Carter now at that 3 technique. Watch the quickness, and he goes all the way across, and he'll split you if you don't make sure that you chip in some capacity. The double, the width that they play in these pass rush situations, and then Nolan Smith on the edge. I don't think you can go empty that much if you're the Rams. This is something very much so to pay attention to in this game. When those two guys are on the same side in those obvious passing situations, it's almost like you got to send 3 or 4 guys that way if you're the Rams to give yourself a chance to get the ball off.
Well, you know what would be good too, Dan? If you never gotten those third and obviously passing or third and long situations.
Amen.
And I think if you Sean McVay and you go watch that film last week, you can tell that the best player for the Green Bay Packers was Josh Jacobs. And I believe Kyren Williams is someone we don't talk about enough if you're the Los Angeles Rams. I believe he averaged over 4.5 yards a carry against the Philadelphia Eagles in the first meeting. And he's the type of player that can sort of mitigate or keep you out of these very dangerous situations when it comes to the Eagles pass rush. And I think you get him going, now you move into the play action pass, and you can allow Sean McVay to be creative, not only in the way that he schematically attacks them on the back end, but the way that he uses the play action pass to block up, whether it's Nolan Smith or Jalen Carter. That all starts with Kyren Williams and the ability and willingness to call runs consistently early in this game and on early downs.
Yeah, I think that they can have more success with Kyren Williams in this one, Ryan, in part because the absence of Nakobe Dean means that Vic Fangio can't lean on those 5-1 fronts, I believe, to the same degree he has been. The Eagles' defense has been so fantastic against the run. So I bet there's going to be a feeling out period with Sean McVay to see how he approaches stopping the run. That chess match, I think, in the first quarter is going to be key. But this offense runs through Puka Nacua. It ran through Puka Nacua all season when he was healthy. It ran through Puka Nacua in this game. And they had a lot of success, especially when he was aligned tight to the formation, and then they used motion to get him leverage or to fool the Eagles defense, as you see here. Whether or not they can do the same thing and also stay out of those third longs where you're getting negative plays and sacks on Stafford, that I think will probably determine whether or not they can keep up with this Eagles offense.
Guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Rams almost decide to have 2 different game plans in this game early on. And depending on how Philadelphia lines up and plays them, Sean will go no huddle. He'll have a plan for if they're going to play 5-1 and maybe it's Zach Vaughn where Dean was and somebody else like a Trotter up at the line of scrimmage. We'll get to this certain stuff, no huddle. Or if they're going to keep Vaughn off and only play that 4-man front, they'll get to a different kind of no huddle stuff. That's something that, a great point of just paying attention to how Philly can play it early on will be a big tell.
I feel like we almost haven't paid enough attention to the Nakobe Dean injury. His emergence as the middle linebacker and green dot on that defense was huge for Vic Fangio's defense. And losing him last week, especially during this playoff run, is going to be big for them to feel.
Yeah, he just absolutely flourished this year under Fangio. And you're right, that could be very significant. ESPN Analytics gives the Eagles a 65% chance of winning and has them projected to win by 6 points. Philly has won each of their last 8 home games, while the Rams have won each of their last 5 road games. So let's check out our picks. Everyone is on Philly except for Dan, and you know it's 20-17.
That's a good pick, Dan. That's not a bad pick, though, D.
Why are you going the other way, Dan?
He looks nervous.
I don't love it.
He looks nervous.
I just think there's going to be an upset. I think it's either Buffalo wins or the Rams win. There's going to be one. I don't feel great about it, but I went with it.
Okay, so there you go. Again, playing the percentages.
Yes. If the Rams win, that means Sean McVay coached his absolute butt off. That Sean McVay really got in his bag.
Which, as we know, he's very capable of doing. Some cold weather awaits the NFL divisional round games this weekend. We've got you covered with everything you need to know. I've always wanted to do the weather. Yay. All right, starting in Philly, expecting some snow, temperatures around 34 degrees at game time. And here's Eagles offensive tackle Jordan Mailata on how he's feeling about a possible snow game.
It was miserable. It's miserable, I'm not gonna lie. But as one of the advantages of playing at home, you've got to get used to this weather. And for it to be very consistent weather, it's good for us. But then again, it's whoever shows up on Sunday.
Yeah, the Aussie doesn't really love these temperatures. As we pop up Mina Kimes, how should the Eagles take advantage of the weather?
The same way that they have all year long, although I think with this weather it actually works in their favor. They're going to pound the rock and out-physical the Rams at the line of scrimmage. I mentioned yesterday that the Eagles have the heaviest offensive line in the NFL. Our researcher, Bonds, actually told me their combined weight is equal to that of a polar bear, which is the heaviest mammal. You do not want to run into Mekhi Becton at any point. You certainly don't want him coming at you when it's that cold outside. I do think this is something helpful to the Philadelphia Eagles.
See the kind of things that you learn here on NFL Live. That was very good.